The story kicks off with that classic deep space intro. The Enterprise is out here doing the most, exploring strange worlds and seeking out new civilizations. It is basically the ultimate road trip across the galaxy, setting the stage as the crew prepares to go where literally nobody has gone before. Munro is stuck in the holodeck running simulations, which is basically just a glorified tutorial level. The computer is yapping about safety protocols, while Munro is practicing jumps and crouches. It is kind of embarrassing to be a full lieutenant and still have to prove you know how to climb a ladder without falling. But Starfleet regulations are strict. The training session is getting intense as Munro has to prove he is not a bot with the weapons. He grabs the phaser and the compression rifle, blasting targets to get recertified. It is honestly a grind, but you have to respect the hustle, because going into a real mission with bad aim would be an absolute fail. We flash back to the Voyager era, and the situation is critical. The Borg have trapped the ship, and Munro has to clutch up to save the crew. The Hazard team is moving through the Borg sphere, trying not to look like a threat so the drones do not instantly aggro on them. It is high stakes and very spooky. Things go south immediately as Chang gets captured by the Borg. The squad is scrambling to find him before he gets assimilated, which would be game over. Munro is checking the tricorder like his life depends on it, trying to track Chang down in the maturation chamber while dodging drones that are starting to adapt to their weapons. The team is fighting through waves of Borg to shut down the dampening field generators. It is absolutely chaotic, with drones swarming everywhere. Chell and Munro have to coordinate perfectly to trigger a feedback loop. If they fumble this, Voyager is never going home, so the pressure is definitely on to get these generators offline immediately. Voyager is ready to yeet out of there, but Munro is stuck behind because the transport signal is glitching. Tuvok tells him to stay low in the Borg central plexus, which is easier said than done. The Borg Queen starts yapping about assimilation, and Munro is literally the only thing standing between the crew and total disaster. Fast forward to the Alpha Quadrant, and the administration is completely disrespecting the Hazard team. They disband the squad, sending everyone to boring assignments. Munro gets stuck teaching cadets, which is actually tragic. The suit in charge thinks the Hazard team is unnecessary, proving he has zero ball knowledge about what actually goes down in the field. Munro is in the headmaster's office trying to deal with his new reality as a teacher. It is super awkward and he is clearly miserable. He misses the action and the squad. The headmaster is just glossing over how talented Munro is, assigning him to babysit cadets instead of letting him do what he does best. Picard enters the chat and absolutely saves the day. He watched Munro's holodeck session and realized this guy is the real deal. Picard basically tells the Academy director that his opinion is trash and recruits Munro for the Enterprise. It is a massive W for Munro, who is ready to leave the classroom and get back to work. The squad is finally back together on the Enterprise, and the hype is real. They are checking out the new gear and getting ready for duty. Chell is geeking out over weapon modifications, and everyone is just relieved to be off those boring assignments. The energy is totally different now that the Hazard team is reinstated. They arrive at the USS Dallas, and the vibes are rancid. The ship has been chewed up by something nasty, and the gravity systems are failing. Munro is scouting ahead, finding weird organic residue that looks like saliva. It is giving major horror movie energy, and nobody knows what kind of creature could do this much damage. Munro finds the captain's log, and the story gets even darker. The crew had to beam themselves into the pattern buffer to survive because the aliens were just too powerful. They have been stuck in data storage mode for days. Munro has to figure out how to get them out without corrupting their files, which is a stressful technical challenge. Back on the Enterprise, Picard is briefing the team. The aliens are confirmed to be these genetically engineered bugs with impulse drives, which is terrifying. The Dallas crew is safe, but now they have to go help the Atrexian station. Munro gets praised for the rescue, but the mission is far from over because the bugs are still out there. Munro lands on the station and talks to the survivors. The Atrexians are down bad, completely overwhelmed by the invaders. They explain that the aliens just appeared out of nowhere with no ship. It is a total mystery, and Munro has to lead the counterattack while trying to keep the remaining station crew from getting completely wiped out. The defensive grid is down, and the station is vulnerable. Munro has to escort the Atrexian officials while fighting off waves of bugs. It is an escort mission, which is always annoying, but Munro is clutching it up. They need to reach the main power core to reset the systems and fry the invaders. Munro is running around the power core, activating generators while his team covers him. It is a race against time to get the grid back online. Once the power hits, the station's defenses start blasting the aliens, finally clearing the area. The Atrexians are saved, but the mystery of where these things came from is still unsolved. The team heads to a planet's surface to investigate some ruins. They find a shuttle that looks super advanced but ancient. The area is swarming with enemies, and the team realizes they have stumbled onto something huge. It looks like an archaeological dig gone wrong, with scientists missing and monsters roaming around the excavation site. The ruins start fighting back. Automated defense systems come online, targeting Munro and the squad. It turns out this place is a factory, not just a ruin. The team gets trapped in a room with poison gas and lasers, forcing them to use their brains to hack the security systems before they get eliminated by the environment. Munro finds the missing scientists, Igor and Clea, hiding in a safe room. They drop a bombshell. They actually made the monsters, called Exommorphs. It was supposed to be a labor force, but the creatures went rogue. The awkwardness is off the charts as the scientists try to justify creating literal killing machines. Munro has a chat with Clea, who seems way more reasonable than the others. She admits the research got out of hand. Munro convinces her to come back to the Enterprise to help fix this mess. There is definitely some chemistry there, or at least mutual respect, as they bond over being weirdly passionate about their jobs. The Atrexians show up and demand the facility be destroyed. Tensions are high because the Idril scientists want to save their work, but the Atrexians are done playing games. Picard intervenes, but the Atrexians just bomb the site from orbit. The Idril are furious, and the political situation just went from bad to absolute chaos. The Idril retaliate by attacking the Enterprise. They beam directly into engineering and try to blow the warp core. Munro has to rush down there and fight off the boarders in a desperate close-quarters battle. The core is overheating, and if Munro does not stabilize it, the whole ship is going to become space dust. The invaders are literally on the hull of the ship, hacking the computers from the outside. Munro puts on an environmental suit and goes for a spacewalk to stop them. The view is insane, but fighting enemies in zero gravity while walking on the skin of the starship is extremely dangerous. One slip and he floats away forever. After saving the ship, the team beams down to a colony that is under attack. The Idryll leader, Crindo, is losing his mind with grief and rage. Munro is trying to help the colonists escape into the sewers. The situation on the ground is grim, with ruins everywhere and civilians running for their lives. Munro finds survivors in the sewers who say they were tricked by an Idril spy. It turns out Crindo sent a bunch of people into a trap. Munro is furious and decides to hunt Crindo down personally. The team splits up to escort the civilians while Munro goes into full hunter mode to find the person responsible for this betrayal. Munro catches up to Crindo but gets taken hostage. It is a tense standoff. Crindo threatens to kill everyone, but Munro pulls a galaxy brain move. He proves that Crindo's father is dead and that Crindo has been manipulated. The realization hits Crindo hard, and he finally agrees to stop the madness and help the Federation. Crindo is devastated but agrees to help find the real villain. He reveals that a Ferengi arms dealer named Omag betrayed his family and sold the exomorph technology. Now they have a lead. The mission shifts from fighting monsters to hunting down this shady businessman who caused all this destruction for profit. Munro and Crindo head to a seedy Klingon starbase to find Omag. The place is full of mercenaries and lowlifes. They have to bluff their way into the VIP section, dealing with bouncers who look like they eat rocks for breakfast. It is a classic undercover operation in a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Omag tries to run, leading to a chase through the station. Munro has to dodge sniper fire and fight through Omag's hired goons. The Ferengi is slippery, using every trick in the book to escape, but Munro is relentless. The chase ends in the hangar bay where Omag tries to flee on his shuttle. Munro interrogates Omag in the brig. Omag tries to quote the rules of acquisition to wiggle out of trouble, but Munro is not having it. He basically threatens to drop Omag on a planet full of monsters unless he talks. Omag cracks and reveals that a Romulan faction is behind everything, buying the weapons to start a war. The team goes undercover on a Romulan base. Munro is disguised as a Romulan soldier, trying to blend in. The tension is high because one slip-up means instant death. He has to act bored and grumpy like a regular guard while secretly downloading data and planting bugs. It is a stealth mission that requires serious patience. The mission goes sideways when their informant betrays them. Munro gets captured by the Romulan commander, Saldok. It turns out this is a secret society called the Empty Crown that wants to overthrow the Romulan government. They have been playing everyone from the start. Munro is in deep trouble, locked up and disarmed. Saldok villain-splains his plan to use the Exommorphs to scare the Romulan Senate into giving him power. He thinks he is a genius, but he is just a warmonger. He decides to execute Munro, but the Federation transporter kicks in at the last second, beaming Munro out. It was a close call, but now they know the location of the main facility. The Enterprise heads to the neutral zone for the final showdown. The Hazard team beams down to the Master Control planet. It is an all-out war zone with Romulan loyalists fighting the Empty Crown rebels. Munro has to navigate the battlefield, fighting through both factions to reach the control center. Munro fights his way into the facility, dodging orbital strikes and heavy weapons fire. The Empty Crown soldiers are fanatic, throwing everything they have at the team. It is a gauntlet of enemies, and the squad is taking hits. They have to push forward because if Saldok activates the main weapon, the whole quadrant is cooked. Munro confronts Saldok, who has merged with the ancient Idril armor. It is a massive boss fight. Saldok is ranting about destiny while shooting energy blasts. Munro has to use every weapon in his arsenal to crack the armor. The fate of the galaxy literally rests on Munro winning this 1v1 duel. Saldok is defeated and the facility is shut down. Picard negotiates with the Romulan commander, smoothing things over. They agree that the empty crown was a threat to everyone. The crisis is averted, and the Federation and Romulans avoid a war. It is a massive diplomatic win thanks to the Hazard team doing the dirty work. Back on the ship, everything is chill. Picard praises Munro and suggests making Hazard teams standard across the fleet. Munro meets up with Klee and they plan a trip to Earth. It is a wholesome ending after all the chaos. The team gets some well-deserved rest, and Munro finally gets to relax. The story wraps up with the Enterprise continuing its mission. The Hazard team proved they are essential. Munro got the girl, and the galaxy is safe for now. It is the perfect ending to a wild adventure, leaving the door open for whatever trouble the universe decides to throw at them next.